Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love. This week, we're joined by my friend Natalie Coleman, founder of After the Peanut. Do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up? Well, we're chatting about trailblazing towards careers outside people's everyday norms. And Natalie says science can answer anything. Stay tuned to see if Matt proves her wrong. Welcome to another episode of Cultivating Courage. I am Kristin Robinson, joined as always by the super awesome, little bit tired Matt Maxwell.
Yeah, I'm so sleepy today. Sorry guys, I was just telling Kristin, I'm like, I may not talk very much during this episode.
Which means it's up to me and our guest, Natalie Coleman. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Natalie is the owner of After the Peanut. We met during our landmark forum, and then we both were pleasantly surprised, I think, when we walked into our advanced course and we were both there again.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
So Natalie, tell our viewers, what else should they know about you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I'm born and raised in Joliet, Illinois. Very proud of that. A lot of people claim Chicago while they're not really from it. So I'm gonna shout out my hometown for real. Near Chicago, but
Yeah.
I like to say that I'm an innovator and curator of STEM things. So that's pretty much what I focus on, where I develop programs for little kids. So that's like where my passion is. Third through eighth graders, just getting them interested in STEM. So for anyone who doesn't know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm also a veteran. That's one thing I'm very proud of. I spent 13 years in the military, spent 15 months in Iraq back in 2003, 2004 as a military police officer. And so that kind of pushed me in a lot of ways that I think has really helped me be the person that I am today, both good and bad. Because when you kind of drilled in some things as far as being a leader, you kind of don't know how not to lead. And everybody doesn't want a leader when you're just trying to hang out.
Right.
So it's kind of weird sometimes. But so you could say I'm an educator and a veteran. And I'm actually, one of the best things right now is I'm a great aunt. My oldest niece had a baby. Dominic was born 2 pounds.
Oh.
And premature, he was born like 3 months early. So
Wow.
I watched my niece be stronger than I ever could have been. He was in an incubator for 3 months.
Yeah.
He was like 9 pounds, and I just got to see him. He's a little squirmy. He's still a little too little for me, but that's one thing I'm looking forward to, is being a part of his life and making sure he's an engineer.
Making sure he's an engineer.
Engineer. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Engineer.
No scientist, engineer only.
Engineer only.
What exactly is After the Peanut?
So After the Peanut is a company.
And wait, can we just kind of like take it in for a minute? Your company is called After the Peanut.
After the Peanut.
I don't have any clue what that is, but it makes me smile saying it. After the Peanut.
I'm glad you're smiling about it, Matt.
Yeah.
So I taught high school chemistry. Shout out to Bloom High School in Chicago Heights for 5 years. And while I was a teacher, the students, I would give them kind of random assignments sometimes. And I told everyone to find a scientist that looks like them and write about them. I don't care, So if you were an African-American male, find an African-American male, Hispanic girl, find it. So on and so forth. And I had a student, a black kid. He's like, "There's nobody out there." And I'm like, it is. And so I named a few. And then I realized, well, I don't have this exhaustive list of African-American scientists. So I went and bought a poster, and I was tutoring and helping kids with all kinds of different things. I worked at Sylvan for a little bit, and I was like, I'm going to just start a tutoring company. And so I called it after the peanut in honor of George Washington Carver, because I was thinking like people need to know that he was great, and he is definitely traditionally who people name when they think of African American scientists, but there's others. And I even found out like the first like fold away bed, like, sleeper couch was made by African American woman. So like one year I posted like African American inventors every day on Twitter, because I'm like, this is crazy. People need to know. And so that's why I named the company that. And I keep the name, and I tell people when they ask me about it, I usually say go to the website, because some people catch on like, does that have something to do with George Washington Carver? I'm like, a little bit, And so that's why I named it. I thought it would stand out. It's in honor of him and everyone coming after him. I know I personally grew up with like 3 minority science teachers. So I had a 6th grade science teacher, one in high school, a Hispanic male, and then in college I had an African man. So it was still like slim pickings for me to have a chemistry degree, have a degree in teaching chemistry, and not come across many African Americans just in that field alone. So that's where the name comes from. And I'm just trying to promote more equity in urban areas or areas where there's lacking the exposure, because everybody can't go to Chicago and see some of the great things that are there. So I promote a lot of equity in STEM around here in Joliet, Lockport area.
Awesome.
Did that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah, that was great. I have more questions.
Yeah, he always does, Natalie.
Okay. Well, a couple of things as you were talking really kind of stood out to me. One is like when you were like, he's going to be an engineer. It just seems like there's like this really clear passion around STEM topics, STEM careers. And I'm just curious, like what has you be so passionate about that?
So I think because whether you become a scientist or engineer, the skills that you gain in taking those types of classes they can transfer into other areas of your life. So for example, in science classes, you have to work on a team. Like you cannot get through high school science without having a lab partner. So it teaches you some skills about communicating, sharing the workload. Another skill is like critically thinking. Like when you have a problem, you just don't give up. So it teaches you some endurance and some perseverance. So I tell people all the time, whether your child is interested or not in science or engineering, the skills that they gain, I think they're going to go into other areas, because you and Kristin are a team right now, right? So, when you learn how to work with people who are like you, who are not like you, you maybe didn't grow up with them, you're in this high school class and the teacher assigns these lab partners, you're like, I got to work with this person the rest of the year. Then it becomes like, okay, well, let me get to know them. Let me talk to them about who they are. And so I think it helps with a lot of things. Like if my nephew doesn't become an engineer, it's okay. But if he just takes a few classes, I'll be happy. I do have one nephew he decided that's what, like we talk a little bit. He got older and I guess he's too cool to talk to me as much.
Yeah, that happens.
But he's in college right now to be an engineer, and I didn't have to push it with him at all. And I'm like, and I have some other nieces and nephews who are interested in psychology, and I'm like, well, you got to study the brain. So, that's part of science. So I just think it teaches other skills that you might not necessarily get in some other classes.
And I'm curious, like, how did you, like, what is the difference it makes or has made for you that has you be passionate about it?
I realized that I didn't have a strong support system when I went to college. So my mother was an educator. She taught primarily like GED classes or at like a Job Corps where students who didn't do so well in high school, they had to go like to an alternative place. And my dad was an electrician. And so, they didn't, I don't know. I just always liked school. And then I had to decide, okay, well, what am I going to major in? I have no clue why I picked chemical engineering, because I used to want to be a sports journalist. I wanted to be a lawyer. And somehow I landed at U of I in chemical engineering 101. And I was like, this is not the place for me. And it was for various reasons. Now, one, it was hard, but it was also not what I thought it was. I thought it was more about the equipment and machinery and efficiency at chemical companies. At least that's how I understood it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to switch to chemistry. And then I was like, well, I don't know. I just thought I had a chemistry kit when I was a kid. I don't know if I asked for it, if my mother bought it just because. But I've always liked science. And then when I think about STEM, it's really nothing you can name that I can't relate to STEM. The fifth graders at a school I'm working in, they are trying to stump me every time I see them. You can't name anything that I can't relate to STEM. And so they keep trying. And I think it's also a lack of people in general. Like, so everybody thinks, oh, it's not enough minorities going into these fields. It's not enough Americans. Okay. Period. It's a low number across the nation. For every 2 STEM jobs, there's only 1 qualified U.S. citizen. And so,
okay, wait, I want to talk more about that, but I got a question for you.
Yes.
What about love?
Oh, come on. You got all kinds of biological things going on when it comes to love.
Oh, there you go.
Biology major, but you have those hormones that come about when you fall in love.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I feel like we should have a whole separate episode of Stump Natalie.
Yeah, see if we find a topic that doesn't.
You know what? If someone stumps me, it's gonna be okay. But I don't know a lot of things, but I have a knack for shooting from the hip. And so when people name things, it takes me a little while, but they haven't stumped me yet. They haven't.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. You got any?
Well, I'm curious.
Especially
science. I'm curious what the experience of being in college and taking those courses as a Black woman were like.
And I was going to say, I was probably the only one. I don't remember anyone else been in the chemical engineering class. Now, when I took chemistry to earn a chemistry degree, there were more students. But the funny thing is Chicago people don't welcome us suburban people. So I kept to myself. And then I was in ROTC. So I was different than most people. So in ROTC, it was really slimmer pick. It was like me, Noelle, Janelle, 3 of us for 4 years, 3 African-American women who made it through the whole program. What it did was it opened up my mind to being around other people. So while I grew up going to school and hanging around predominantly African-Americans at school and church, I lived in a neighborhood that had none. My parents moved us out to this little nook in Joliet that nobody really lives in. And then joining the military in college, I saw different people who, weren't African-American. I think my mother's love for people has always been in me. So I've never shied away from making friends with people who weren't Black. So, but in college, it was just, I don't think I took advantage of some of the opportunities for, getting help, but I didn't have a passion. So I even graduated and I was like, I'm going to go into forensics with the state. Couldn't pass the test, but I say the test is garbage. It's not even about forensics, but I didn't pass it. Then I'm like, I'm going to be a cop. I'm going to work my way into being a detective. I'm going to have this forensic stuff. And so I became a Chicago cop. I took the test to become a Chicago cop and passed, but then I was deployed to Iraq as military police. So when I came home, I said, I don't think I want to be a cop because over there, it wasn't even every day on the clock, being on alert, but it was enough for me to say that I don't want to live like this, carrying a gun every day, looking for bad guys. You have to be assertive. You don't have to be aggressive, but you have to be assertive. If you don't walk around like, oh, I'm a cop. Yeah. No, you fighting crime or whatever. So I was like, what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to teach. So I was like, I didn't have that many teachers. I'm about to go out here and represent. My mother was very happy that I wasn't going to be a cop and go into education like she did. So I just became a teacher, and it was so funny because at U of I, they were like, you should take some education course. I was like, I don't need those. I'm not teaching. I'm teaching anyone's kid. And I went to Governor State and got my teaching degree. And I think becoming an educator it was the best decision I could have ever made.
What's your favorite part about being an educator?
The kids excitement when you do something that you think is so simple. Yeah. And they're like ecstatic about it. Like putting vinegar and baking soda together still makes kids happy. You know, when you see the little fake volcanoes in the science fair project, like, can we add more baking soda? Just pour the whole box in there if you want. It's baking soda. They just get so excited. But I mean, that is real chemistry. It's a chemical reaction that I could tell you all about, you know, that makes that happen. But it's like just seeing their excitement and then listening to kids. So I was sitting in a math class. So I'm helping out of school with their math, helping them get their scores up right. And I'm sitting there just observing.
Oh, wait. I thought of something.
Stump Natalie, round
yeah.
2.
Let's go.
Sorry, I just had it. And I had to say it before I forgot.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Why?
The question why or the letter why?
Why? Why are we here? Why does anything exist?
So what are you doing right now, Matt? You're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So that involves your brain. Okay. And why are we here? Why do we exist? Is all about physics to some people.
Okay.
So like what exists is because we can see it and hear it, right? Those are all senses of our bodies. And in order to see, your eyes have to work, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about that's biology.
So it's like maybe STEM can't answer the question. Can you hear the siren in the background?
Yeah, emergency somewhere.
Yeah. It's like maybe STEM can't answer that, but I couldn't even ask the question
without.
But for all of these like scientific biological processes that we understand through science.
You're going to be stuck thinking about this probably months from now, and you can text me and I will call you or text you back with you.
Okay, good.
But why do we exist is a good question for physicists. They would love to explain that.
Okay, yeah, that's in physics. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Round 2 goes to Natalie.
I think that one's a tie. Science is related, but I'm like, I don't think it can answer it, but I'll have to look into physics. I know there are like lots of people that have thought about this.
Tell you how everything, what matter and particles and dark holes and black, they will give you all the breakdown of it. I'm just a chemistry teacher.
Yeah, no, you don't have to give me the answer. I was just trying to think of something that like STEM can't answer. Okay, so there's another thing that I'm curious about. I don't remember what we were talking about before I interrupted.
We were talking about her favorite part of teaching.
Oh, do you want to keep talking about that?
Yeah. So the little girl is sitting in this class and she's telling her friend, "You see how it's raining out there?" And she's like, because it was raining really hard on Wednesday of this week down here. And she was like, "When I get older, I'm going to build a house for homeless people." She's like, "Do you know it's homeless people sitting out there right now?" She's in 6th grade. Teacher's not asking her what she wants to do. And I'm like, so when I hear that, this is the type of kid I want to say, hey, we're going to go to the Habitat for Humanity and help them with blah, blah, blah. She's not old enough yet. But like that is something that she might be interested in because they build homes, not necessarily for homeless people, but for, people who, are trying to find a home. It's like they help build it and they can live it and all that. And I was just thinking like these kids are so open to exploring things and helping other people. And sometimes they kind of get crushed because no one really asks them, what are you interested in like doing? Not like so much, what are you going to be when you grow up, but who do you want to help? And clearly she had a heart for homeless people. And it really touched me just sitting there listening to her.
Yeah. Well, I think this came up in a conversation I was having yesterday, was just the idea that we kind of all grow up to be someone's expectation and not necessarily our own. So kind of what you were saying, right? Like no one really asks you, not just what do you want to be, but like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to help? It's all like, what do you want to be? And that question is so limiting to what you've seen and what you know and what you think other people think you should be.
Yeah, that as soon as you said that, I'm like, I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone ask the question, how do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to ask kids. Do you think, Natalie, with your experience with like children, do you think that kids would know how to answer that, or would they look at you like, what are you talking about? If you ask them like, how do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, I think I think they would be able to answer that.
Yeah.
I do, because that's the thing. It's going to make them actually have to think about it. And they might say, I don't know. They say, well, how do you want to feel as an adult? What are some things you want to experience?
Yeah.
You know, because I always ask, like, if you were not getting paid, what would you do, like, as a career? Like, for me, I would coach basketball. If somebody fed me, housed me, gave me a couple dollars to travel, because I just enjoy it. You know, I mean, I would teach too. I mean, I consider that teaching as well.
Would you teach me?
I asked them that question, and I asked them what they like to do, what they do in there for fun, you know?
Yeah.
So kids are ready to save the world. They're ready to help. They want to they kind of want to have fun doing whatever it is that they're doing. And I try to turn what they are passionate about into a career. Like all these kids playing Fortnite, I've never touched a remote to play it because I'm just past playing video games, I think, except for 2K. But I tell them, you know, you can make your own video game. I say there nothing wrong with that they're getting rich and making a lot of money off of you. I'm like, someone made that. It didn't grow out of the ground.
Yeah. And like, think about all the different people involved in making it. It's not just the coders. It's the people that are creating the art. It's the people that are doing the animation. It's, you know, the people that are marketing it, the people that are packaging it. Like there's so many pieces within that. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't really want to learn how to code. Okay, cool. You can still totally create a career out of video games that doesn't involve coding.
Yeah, the marketing department, and then I mean, even the person in charge of the finances. How do you price this thing? How do you make sure people keep paying for the suits or skins or whatever it is that they get?
Yeah.
So I confess to a bias. I'm going to just go ahead and confess to this bias.
Okay.
The bias is towards people getting to determine how their life is going to be for themselves.
You're biased in
I
what
have
way?
a bias that people should be able to, for themselves, determine how their life is going to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Not
I imagine some of us share this bias. I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think
maybe
it's
some
normal.
Of us don't.
I don't think it's normal.
It's not the cultural context we grew up in.
Yeah, but I for sure agree with that.
Fortunately, my parents put no pressure on me to do anything. They put me in piano lessons. I don't think I asked for it, and I regret quitting it and my parents letting me quit. I learned how to play classical music like at 9, and then like at 12, I don't want to do this anymore. I should have never quit. But anyway, they never pressured me, and I think what kids need is just to see a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Take them to plays, take them to movies, take them to the park, let them go play video games, put them in sports, and you're going to see when a kid shines and sparks or a topic, or you buy them different types of books. Like I was exposed to a lot of things growing up as far as opportunities to just see the world, so to speak, not going places. We didn't go many places, but it's a lot of books in the house. My parents read the newspaper all the time, like just presenting things to kids and letting them decide. Because I know in some cultures, people are pressured to be in certain careers. Now, I really think engineers make a good salary, right? But that doesn't mean you'll be happy if that's what you're doing. Some people make a lot of money and they're not happy.
Yeah.
But I still want to introduce as many kids as I can into these different science.
Yeah, so at least they know that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the assignment that you mentioned at the top of the episode around finding someone that like looks like you, comes from a similar background, that is a scientist. You know, and I was thinking about the impact of that kind of inquiry on someone, where it's like, oh, like what I imagine would be the opening to the possibility right? Of like, oh, if this person did it, then maybe I could do that too.
Oh yeah. It so people ask me a lot of questions about science, right? And I don't know a lot of answers. I studied chemistry. So I'm like, there's other fields. And so I've always not really been interested in space science, right? Earth and space science, yeah, whatever. And so when Hidden Figures came out, the story about 3 African American women who helped us get to the moon, I was quite upset about this situation because as a child, whenever the movie came out is when I found out about it. And I'm like, what if I knew about them when I was 9 or 12 or 15? I was 35 or whatever age I was. I mean, it just came out. And it's just like, sometimes you have to dig. And so I've done some digging, and I want to and it's not just to encourage African-American girls with that movie. It's about anyone having a desire to do something and not seeing someone that looks like them. So regardless of your age, culture, race or whatever, gender, it's like, if you want, like a guy that wants to be a ballet dancer, right? Where's that? That's not a dominant image in American culture. Yep. But that might be what the kid wants to do. And like, he has no one to look up to. Yeah. So it's like, we got to pull back, the wool over some things of what we were taught in a traditional setting.
Totally.
And kind of give kids the opportunity to see people who look like them in different arenas, so they can be encouraged to kind of, continue or push forward with what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about my own life, and I grew up in like a basically affluent suburb of Denver, mostly white, like a place where I would think people would have a pretty good relationship with opportunities. And like, even for me, my dad was a hotel manager my whole childhood, my whole growing up. He still is. And, for me growing up with that, it was basically like, I'll probably have to end up being a hotel manager.
Right. I talk about that all the time. Even in like
circumstances where there seemed to be a lot of variety and opportunity, I still, or like I kind of had this idea of like, I could never make more than my dad. Because I don't know, nobody ever told me that. It was just like, that's what my ceiling was. And luckily I had opportunities in college and other places where I was like, oh, my ex-wife was an Air Force officer and did ROTC. And so I kind of like got involved in ROTC a little bit during college. And some of her really good friends became fighter pilots. And that's something that as a child, like, would have been the absolute coolest thing that I could imagine. But as a child, like, I had no conception that that was actual possibility. It wasn't until college when I was like, oh, people are actually doing this. Like, real people actually do this.
Yeah.
And anyways, I just think all of us need some exposure to like, oh, it's like actually possible for you to have a dream and work towards it, and having other people as inspiration of that, especially people that have followed a similar journey to what ours would look like, can be so inspiring and just so much like open up what could be possible for us.
Yeah, I think the exposure piece is a huge component of creating that for people, because you know what you're exposed to, like, you know what you see. And so it's hard to get past that, like, I grew up in a town where most people are either farmers, teachers, bankers, like, you know what I mean? So it's very traditional sort of thing. And that now there's like a million things where I'm like, ooh, okay, you guys, like, you don't have to be those things. Like, figure out, like, what do you like doing? What's fun for you? Like, there are ways, 100%, there are ways to turn that into a career. Like, 100%. There's somebody that creates the windows that everybody looks at Marshall Fields. There's somebody that, like, if you're really into music, but you're not necessarily musical, like, there's a million ways to be involved in music. Like sound, lights, like the design of this, like, stage. There's so many like cool things Like, but people think like, oh, I want to be a musician. It's like, well, okay, cool. But like, if that doesn't happen to work out, but you have this passion around music, what other things might be available to you that you'd still be able to be involved in music? But maybe you're not like the next Taylor Swift.
Maybe I am.
But you might be, Matt.
Yeah, don't give up. If you're trying to be Taylor Swift,
that's not what that's not what I'm saying.
We could use more than one. She's
Could
kind
we?
of ubiquitous. What I want to ask you, Natalie, is I'm feeling just like super inspired around this, like self-determination, us getting to choose what we want to be. And you occur like someone who's really chosen your life and chosen it based on what you're passionate about. And I really acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Wonder what we got people listening from a lot of different places, and some of them may be very satisfied with their careers. And I imagine there are some, at least, who are like, oh, I'm not sure I'm actually doing what I really want. What advice do you have for them?
So, for someone who's not doing what they really want to do, you got to get an exit strategy, an exit plan. How are you going to get to where you are doing what you want to do? I have a hashtag I use a lot called it's choose wisely. And I just asked, how much time do you spend daily creating a life you love? And so they are putting in a certain amount of time wherever they're putting it in. It might be because it's a great pay, good benefit.
Another
Sirens.
emergency.
Yeah, I really want to hear this. So,
but so for me, I was doing what I like doing, but I was doing it in someone's box, literal, or the basement, because that's where I worked, in a basement. And so it was the wrong environment. And so they could be doing what they like, or they actually enjoy the work, but they're not in the right environment. When you mention your father and you saying like you kind of grew up thinking like I might not ever make as much as him, what organizations do is tell you what your value is and how much they're going to pay you. And so one thing that I decided when I left was no one's going to tell me how much I should earn but me, And so I think because I didn't walk away from something I didn't like, I walked away from the environment. And it wasn't like it was this toxic work environment. It was just, this was time for me to go. And I wanted to spread my wings, because I always say I was like an eagle, in a chicken coop. And so I needed to go somewhere so I could fly. And because I have an active imagination, and I want to create programs and opportunities. And you have to go through layers in the public education system to get that done. Whereas if you run it yourself, this is what I'm doing this month. Oh, it didn't work, I'll try something else. So when people are like, I have not so many friends. There are a lot of people on Facebook who literally complain about their job on Facebook. And I often wonder, do you not think your job is going to see this? But if you're not happy, you have to really ask yourself, why are you not happy? And what are you doing to get to a happy place?
Yeah. Amen.
With the work that you do.
Okay. Here's our practice, I think.
So it's not quite so abrupt.
Oh.
We're pretty much out of time on this episode.
Yeah, we're going to go into another one with you. But we're going to wrap this one up. Is that all right?
Yeah, we're going to do a second one. Don't worry.
I have to grab my charger from my computer too.
Okay. Well, before we do that, here's what stood out to me. Well, a bunch of what you just shared stood out, but I loved the I felt like an eagle in a chicken coop.
Yes.
And so I think the place for us to look is, where in your life are you an eagle in a chicken coop?
And what steps are you taking,
or will you take
to
actually like be able to live your full life
to soar like an eagle?
Yeah.
It's a great practice for the week. All right. So, Cultivating Courage listeners, another episode. has come and gone. And we'll see you.
Thank you. Wait. No. Natalie, where can people find you?
Oh, yeah.
If they want to see After the Peanut.
Great.
Yeah, what's the website?
You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at After the Peanut, all one word.
Okay.
And they can go to afterthepeanut.com to find out information.
Afterthepeanut.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'm Matt Maxwell. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media, or learn about coaching with me at thisishearthstone.com. And please check out my book, How to Hold a Cockroach, now available through Amazon. You can connect with Kristin on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, that's Kristin, or find her upcoming workshops at thrivecoachingstudio.com. Please subscribe to us wherever you listen and leave a great review. Don't forget our practice this week.
Notice where in your life you're an eagle in a chicken coop. What steps will you take to get out so you can spread your wings and fly?
We'd love to hear how it goes in the comments section wherever you listen, or leave us a note at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com.